Hey guys, this is Borderkeeper here. Just doing a quick tutorial on how to convert a mission from ARCor to TMF, and I will also be covering some basic ideas on how TMF works, so you're less afraid of it and you're more free in doing whatever you want to do with that framework, because it's pretty powerful, and if you understand how it works, it gets easier. So what I'm going to do is do a full convert on one of my older missions called Battle Diplomats. So first things we need to do is head to mission design, go to pin messages, and go to the ARCMT GitHub, which is ARCO mission template. It's basically the same thing as ARCMF, but just renamed. So what you need to do is download this arcmt.vr, which is the template, as same as before, and extract it into your missions folder. I already have it here, but I can delete that. There we go. So once you have that, you want to create a blank, basically a blank mission with the framework. So just rename this or copy this with the correct name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and grab the old mission. So that would be ARCor archive Battle Diplomats. I'm going to copy it here just for sake, just rename it to something else. Could be like old. And I'm going to rename this. Change this. Alright. So now this is just an empty ARCMT VR, but with the correct name already applied. So what I will do now is I will fill this with the previous stuff that was on that mission. So I'm going to go to editor. I think it was Bukavina, no, Bistrisa. So now that I'm on the map, I will go merge and merge the old one into like a blank map. So now that I've merged this, I have all the units that were there previously placed. The only thing I do not care about are the old framework Orbat. But since in this mission in particular, they're not just placed in one space, they kind of spread out. So I'm just going to leave them in, just so I know like what's there, where they were placed before, so I can replace them with the new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything on the mission, just Control C, and then I'm going to open and go to the new one. So that's this one. Go to the new one and place these back in. So Control V. Now these will be not at the right spot. So what you need to do is kind of fiddle with it a bit. So I, for example, know that the Orbat units were like in buildings, so I can use that as a reference. So I think those were like that. Yep. Make sure you don't deselect. So these were like here. Yeah, that sounds good. These waypoints look correct as well. The chips looks correct. So yeah, I think this is all good. Let me just check one last couple things. Yeah. As you can see, some units are floating, but we can easily solve that with transform. So now that, it's roughly correct, like place-wise, I'm going to do right-click, transform, snap the surface, put them all on the ground, and that's about it for that. So now that everything's placed down as it should be, what I will do is I will get rid of these old ones, because they don't have the proper like role assigned, so they won't get assigned the correct loadout and stuff. So I will go back to the to our new Orbat, and because we're up 4, I'm going to delete blue 4. I'm going to delete, I'll try and delete, info, and try and delete blue 4. There we go. I'm going to snap them to surface just so it's easier to work with them, because they're like very low underground. Okay. So I know there will be no special roles, so I'm just going to delete the special roles. Like that, the chips. Also don't need second platoon. So I don't need company either. There's no air, so I don't need FAC. And that should be it for the ORBAT that I will require. So let's just now spread them apart how they were before. So I'll be right back when I'm done with that. Okay, so I have finished relocating the units back to where they were. It's not perfect, but since this ORBAT has them more condensed, I could have just squeezed them in into the buildings just fine. So now that we have this and that done, we basically are free to run the mission. The only problem now are the briefing and the loadouts. So with the briefing and the loadouts, you won't it won't be enough to stay in here. What you will have to do is go into your text editor. I use Visual Studio Code and open and find the mission. So that we will miss MK. And find the example loadout here. That is loaded by default. If you open the description ext, you can delete this section, debriefing, that's fine. The class CGFG loadouts, config loadouts, it contains all the briefing, all the loadout files. So here by default it's example loadout, and you can find it in loadouts/example loadout HPP. What I will be doing, I'll be doing just Russians. I don't want to overcomplicate it, so Russians. So this will be loadout Russians, and display name will be Russians. And the display name that's going to be shown in the when you type in hashtag loadout, and if you select loadouts. So now that's done, I'm going to open the Russians HPP. Now the first thing I always do is remove the fluff, so remove this, just so I kind of have it easy on me. Remove all the classes that I'm not going to use, same as all loadouts, so that's usually the things at the bottom, so UAV, engineer mines, engineer explosives, jet pilot, helicopter pilot, driver, crew, spotter, sniper, AA, mortar, hat, mat, HMG, MMG, rifleman 80. Rifleman 80 is usually when the door kickers start trickling in. And so now that I have that, the file is much smaller, it's like 200 lines. And I can start configuring it. Now how the system works, or how it's supposed to work, is you could theoretically go into Arsenal and just, I think there's like an export functionality, but I found it much easier to do it manually because you will save yourself a lot of trouble. So just to explain that, to show that here, I'm going to load up the old one. And the way I'm going to do it is a little bit different. I'm going to load the entire folder, since that's what Visual Studio Code allows me to do. So I'm going to load the entirety of MP missions. And this is the old one. And I'm just going to find Rifleman first. And then I'm going to open up the loadout file in the new one. So Russians HPP. And split them in half. Not like that, the other way around. And now I can start filling them in. This in the old one they use this type of uniform. So in the baseman, I'm just gonna fill that uniform in. To explain the system of how it's supposed to work here, the baseman is just an unarmed soldier. So think rifleman without a gun, grenades, smokes, and weapon, and and then that's just basically like the base that you apply to every soldier. So I'm gonna remove the empty stuff, since there's gonna be no backpack items, no crates, no code that needs to be run. The items, they'll have medicals inside of them, so I'm gonna leave that, but he'll have no magazines, no primary weapon, secondary weapon, insignias. The faces default means that it comes from, and the goggles default, that means that it comes from the player's profile. So I usually leave that on because, for example, my profile has like glasses, so I want to keep players have that to differentiate between each other. So now that I have that, I'm gonna fill the baseman. So uniform is gonna be this. Vest is gonna be this. Or do I fill vest? Did I delete vest by accident? Oh no, there it is. So vest is gonna be this. Then the backpack is carryall. Headgear is this helmet. Oh, parentheses. HMD, I don't even know what that is. So I'm just gonna remove it. If it's empty, it's fine. And I think that's it. Uniform, vest, backpack, headgear, goggles, faces, items. Yep. Now I'm gonna go to rifleman. So I'm gonna add weapon and his magazines. So his weapon is AK-103. Primary weapon, AK-103. He has a scope cap optic Cobra. No attachment because it's a day mission. No need for laser or light. Headgear. Now that is applied. I already put it here, so I no need to like put it here. How this works is that, as you can see, class R. Then you have this symbol and baseman. That means that the R takes everything from the baseman and then either adds to it or overrides stuff in it. So, for example, if I left the headgear, equals means it would just override this headgear array. This means it's an array, a list of items. So it would override this SSH68 helmet. But if I put plus equals, then this would mean that it would add to it. And of course, you can't have more than one helmet in this instance where it's not like magazines where you can have like more than one magazine. Here it's a chance. So list 5 means it's 5 times is likely to get this one, then 1 times is likely to get this one, or this one. So think of it as, you know, just the randomization we have on ARCgear for AI. So I'm gonna remove this. Scope and magazines. So magazines, he had, where is it? 7 of these. So that, my goodness, and list 7. He had 7 of these yellow tracer ones, and also he had some in his uniform. 1 of them in his uniform, right? So I think I did that because the vest wasn't big enough. But the usefulness of this is that if you use the magazine array or the magazine list, the magazine list will add them everywhere there's space. So that means even if I do list 8, if the vest is full, it will just add it to the backpack. If I want to add stuff solely to backpack, I can do backpack items, or I think vest items, I'm not sure, but backpack items will just add it to backpack. Magazines will add it everywhere there's space, starting from the vest, and then filling up the backpack if the vest becomes full. So yeah, that's just 8 magazines. I'm also going to add, I think he had grenades, so 2 grenades and 2 smoke shells. So list 2 grenades, list 2 smoke shells. These lists, they are defined in the macros HPP. You can see that they're basically just, they take whatever is inside of this and expand it once it gets compiled onto this. So if you type list 5, it will just replace everything that you put between those what they're called, brackets into this. So it'll just ease you so you don't have to write it so much. And the smoke shell is smoke shell. And that's the rifleman done. I also noticed he has a different vest for some reason compared to this vest. Never mind, I'm an idiot. Okay, so he has the same vest. So that's rifleman done. Now, what are we gonna go to Grenadier? Grenadier is by default something that gets taken, that it's not like something we use in our bat, but it's something that FTL then like uses and adds stuff to it. So we can just, you know, treat it as a rifleman with a GL. So I'm gonna go to my FTL because that's basically what FTL is with a radio. AK-103 GL. And he has these things. So he has 5 GP25s. So 5 GP25s. I'm gonna rewrite this a bit because I don't actually want him to have Illum Flask because this is a day mission. I don't know why I had it like that before. But here you see the magazines is plus equals, which means it gets added to it. So he will get this magazines, and because Grenadier takes stuff from, you know, Rifleman, it adds this stuff or this stuff to this stuff in the end. So 5 GP25s. I'm going to remove the Illum and Smoke Red. So that will be 5, 10, 15, 20. So I'm going to do 20 GP25. Is that even possible? Yeah, 20 is the maximum. Oh no, 30, 40, 50. Okay, but 20 is the maximum in there. So 20 GP25s. And then I'm going to do... No, actually no, 15 and 10 smokes. That's the Grenadier done. The Carabinier, I usually hit by removing it, but I actually leave it more often than not. I see it as just a lighter rifleman, basically, because sometimes like your AAR or AR or RAT, like they usually are quite heavy if they were just expanded on. If you just took a rifleman and gave it an RPG-7, he would be too heavy. So you can have like a Carabinier, which is basically a rifleman with just a little bit fewer magazines that you can then expand upon with RAD loadout. So I'm just gonna take the same. So the Carabinier will basically be the same. So he has the same vest, he has the same primary weapon, and magazines. I'm just gonna put a little bit less. So I'm gonna put in like 6. That is something that's really up to you, how you approach it, because it depends on the auto test and how heavy the actual loadouts are. So there's a bit of experimentation required. So I'm just going to leave it as this for now. Just give him a couple of magazines and 2 grenades and smoke shells. CLS is easy. That's basically just a Carabinier with a trait medic and a different backpack and a backpack items medical CLS. The medical CLS is the same thing as this list one. So what it does, it just replaces this medical CLS keyword with, in the macros, with this. So 2 body bags, 20 field dressings, 10 morphines, 55 epi, 5 tourney, and 10 splint. So that's that. That's the CLS done. I think I'll have to replace the backpack because it's too small with our new one. So medic has carryall. I'm just going to put carryall to the CLS as well. Medic, same thing. Just going to give it carryall as well. Since CLS already has a carryall, I don't need to change that. I just need to change the backpack items into something else. Submachine gunner, I do not need. That's usually for like vehicle crews to take from. FTL, I'll just have him be Grenadier. I don't need this smoke green. Technically, okay, I can add the 2 smoke greens to it. I'll give him map tools, binos, and a GPS. That's fine. SL. SL is the same, actually. I don't want anything different from SL to FTL. SL should just be FTL with a different name. Company, I'm gonna remove this fedora and just leave him with the same. FAC, I don't have a FAC, so I can remove that. AR, good question. AR is... What weapons does AR have? And PKM, so primary weapon PKM, and 3 weapons, 300 round tracer yellow. And let's change this to list 2. I want 2 grenades. Okay, what did I do? 6, my bad. List 3. That's AR. The AAR. Oh, my bad. The AAR is basically a rifleman or a carabinier, I guess, because he has a little bit less of magazine count because he's heavier. And in his backpack, he has this in 3. And this in 2, the non-tracer one, and the entrenching tool they will not need it because they'll be moving. This is an attack mission. If they were like a defense spot, I would leave it in, but not there. And binos. Plus equals, so I add on to what he already has here, which is like a map and radio and compass. I'm gonna add binos to it. And Rifleman AT, that one's gonna be a bit different. Rifleman AT will have RPG 7. So it's a rifleman with RPG 7. And in his backpack, he might have extra ammo to it. Yeah, 1 PG7 VM. So, backpack. So here, right, the thing that you can do that I forgot to mention, if you do magazines, I could add it either as a backpack item, do this. Oh, sorry, I made a typo, it needs to be in this. So, I can either add it like this, or I can add it to magazines. It should be the same, but the difference is, not only that magazines can be put to vest as well, but also if it's in magazines, the framework will try to load it into the weapon. So if I put it to magazines, again I forgot the quotation marks. Oh, sorry, the brackets. If I put it to magazine, it will automatically get loaded into the RPG. And the thing that is a little bit different here that I forgot, I think riflemen have 2 in their backpacks. So I'll go back to rifleman and do backpack items equals list 3. Right. And that is also a nice addition to the carabinier, because the carabinier now, people can like different loadouts can extend from the base rifleman, but I don't want them to get the RPGs. I don't want FTL step RPGs in their backpack, so they're gonna use the carabinier rather than the rifleman. For example, AR, I'm gonna have them take from car, and rat will take from car as well, just so they don't have, you know, extra stuff in their backpack. I don't want the rat to have backpack with 2 RPGs. And that's it, I think. So I'm gonna just test it now. So I'm gonna go to my mission and I'm gonna load the loadout for my units. I'm gonna go select them all, right click attributes, go all the way back down. There's a lot of stuff because I selected a lot of stuff. Actually, hang on. Select all up 4 in the right screen here, then select one of them, attributes. So category from mission file, faction, Russians. Right, role is, I'm not gonna change that because that would set everyone to rush fire team leader if I enabled that. So I'm just gonna leave them as they are. They already set correctly as a role. I'm just gonna change their faction category. And now if I look at them, yep, they look correct to me. So they have now fine. Let me check the auto test. So, okay, this is not ideal. I have a heavy rolls. Company is heavy. SL, FTL, and AR are too heavy for some reason. So I will, and rat seems to not have magazines. They have only 3. So rat. Oh, you see why? Because I overwritten the magazines from the carabinier. So I should need to do plus equals. So because I did equals, I said this loadout only will be able to have this 1 magazine, which is 1 rocket. But I wanted to add it onto it. So plus equals, save, auto test, and the error is no longer there. It's just a heavy rolls now. So I'm going to take a look into that later. I think there might be that some rolls actually getting the rockets maybe or something, but let's move on from that for now, and I'll do that on my own.